Welcome back. Army Chief Manoj Pande informed the nation that the situation along the line of actual control was unpredictable but remained stable. He raised his concerns over the slight increase in the deployment of Chinese troops along the eastern sector, but ensured adequate deployment of Indian Army and men and equipment to take care of any eventuality. General Pande also said that both countries had been able to resolve 5 of the 7 issues along the LAC and continue to hold talks at the military and the diplomatic levels. Well, so that's the big update here. Let me welcome Major General Dhruv Katoch joining us here this evening. Thank you, General Katoch. Thank you for joining us here. I want to begin by asking you that, here is a big statement that has come from the top man in the job, the Chief of the Indian Army. But the concern that we saw was in that statement where he mentions a slight increase in deployment in the eastern sector when it comes to the Chinese troops. How are you reading this statement, General Katoch, and what do we make of it?
The deployment from the adversary side continues in the same manner. We have equal number of troops on our side. We have adequate reserves to cater for all contingencies. In terms of the numbers, I would say there has been slight increase in the number of troops that we find opposite our Eastern Command. But we are keeping a close watch on the movements, activities there with all the surveillance resources that are available at our disposal. In the winter posture, that is during the ongoing period, some modification to our deployments have been done, but ensuring you have adequate forces, adequate reserves.
Okay, so we first listened there to the statement made by the Army Chief. Now let me go across to Major General Katoch, who is with us at this point of time. Major General Dhruv Katoch is with us. Very good evening, sir. I want to begin by asking you that at this point of time, the Army Chief has made a significant statement about India's status in the eastern sector. What are you making of the points that we just heard? And are we to be concerned about the fact that there has been a slight increase in Chinese deployment?
Thank you. I think you see what the Army Chief has stated is simply a very factual statement. As far as the slight increase in the number of troops, what China has placed on the eastern sector, no, I do not think that is a matter of concern. Whatever the Chinese do, either on the eastern border, that is across Arunachal, or in eastern Ladakh, there will be a mirror deployment from the Indian Army side and from the side of the Indian Air Force. So the surveillance is going on at a pace, and should there be any mischief which the Chinese would like to play either in Arunachal or in eastern Ladakh, the Army will respond to it, and if required, the Indian Air Force will respond to it appropriately. So to that extent, I do not think there is a matter of concern for the increased number of, for the slight increase in Chinese troops. However, I think the very fact that the Chinese are continuing in this posture for now it's been over a year, I think that is a matter of concern. What are the motives? What are they really trying to achieve? Because they know very well that India will respond. So knowing that India will respond, why are they still continuing with this course of action is something which we need to be concerned about. Is there something deeper in play which may come out within a year or 2 years or 3 years? That we'll have to wait and see. But ultimately, I think for both the countries, we need the forces to disengage. And the earlier it happens, the better it is for India and for China.
Yes, because, in terms of the choice of words, and if I heard it correctly, the Army Chief said the situation is unpredictable. And this kind of unpredictability is not always a good thing, isn't it? Because there is supposed to be some certainty. There are supposed to be rules in place. There are supposed to be agreements followed. Why is it that we continue to be in this vulnerable position, even though we understand that at both levels, diplomatic and military, the talks must continue?
You see, the element of unpredictability comes because the Chinese and the Indian troops are, it is a face-off situation. And especially in a place, something like the Depsang Plateau, there is a certain element of vulnerability. Now, if let us say if a disengagement takes place, then that unpredictability element goes away.
Yes.
But so long as the troops are in contact, we have found to our experience that you cannot trust the Chinese. They will do something either on the instructions of their political hierarchy or maybe by the local leader themselves, the local military commander. So to that extent, at all times, the Indian armed forces will have to be prepared. And I think this unpredictability should stretch, very frankly.
Okay.
We shouldn't simply confine it to the borders. I think we'll have to confine it to the oceanic region also, that is to the Indo-Pacific. And we should also look into economic issues. So I think it is going to be an across the board, India will have to be careful of Chinese intent, economically, politically, and militarily.
So are you saying then, General Katoch, that the sense of mistrust remains? Because, when we say there is a vulnerability, the attitude is adversarial, the attitude is hostile. So obviously, like you said, that there is no way we can ever lower the guard.
Oh, absolutely. You see, the relationship today is adversarial. And the reason is primarily because China considers itself or wants to consider itself as the sole power in Asia, at least. And then subsequently, of course, in the world, but that is going to be a long time. And China has made their intention very, very clear. Now, the only competitor which has got the adequate size to oppose China and is India. And which is why China will do everything in its power to discredit India politically, diplomatically, and to put India down economically. Militarily also, they will give it a try. But I think they will be a bit hesitant to do anything on the military front because the response which they get may not be to their liking. It is my view, Afrida, that if the Chinese feel they are strong enough to take what they want in Arunachal Pradesh and in Eastern Ladakh, they will go in for a war. But at this point of time, they do not feel they have the strength, and the possibility of their losing the war is very, very high, especially after seeing what has happened in Ukraine, in Russia. So I don't think the Chinese are going to look at a military adventure, but I cannot rule out the possibility of Chinese carrying out small nibbling actions which they have been doing over the last 30 to 40 years. And that is something which we will not allow now. That is why we have had, these face-offs. These face-offs are occurring for one very simple reason. They are being opposed. And China doesn't like being opposed. So they are being opposed now. And China feels that, as per their power status, India should bow down to them. India is not going to bow down. India has a power in its own right. And that, I think, is a lesson which the Chinese need to learn. The faster, the better.
Yes, some very, very important points made by you, General Katoch. The fact that you've said it, without mincing words, that they will not be able to take a military adventure, or a misadventure rather. There might be these nibbling actions, as you put it, but India is able to resist that as well. I appreciate your joining us here this evening. Thank you so much.